President Donald Trump posting a video depicting former President Barack Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama as apes.
President Trump posted a video on social media that includes a racist meme depicting former President Obama and his wife Michelle.
Featured racist imagery of former President Barack Obama and his wife Michelle depicting them as apes.
I didn't see the whole thing. I guess during the end of it, there was some kind of a picture that people don't like. I wouldn't like it either.
Picture this. It's early February 2026, Black History Month, and former President Donald Trump's social media feed drops something wild and very offensive. On Truth Social, Trump shared a video pushing false claims about the 2020 election, a topic he's obsessed with.
I looked at it, I saw it, and I just looked at the first part. It was about voter fraud in someplace, Georgia. There was a lot of voter fraud, 2020 voter fraud.
But at the very end, just for a beat, the clip flips to a bizarre, brief animation showing Barack Obama and Michelle Obama depicted as apes dancing to The Lion Sleeps Tonight. The imagery hit like a cultural grenade. This wasn't a random meme. It brought centuries of racist tropes into the digital spotlight. Tropes historically used to demean black people by comparing them to animals. And yes, the fact this happened during Black History Month made the reaction even bigger. Within hours of posting, people were blowing up online, across cable news, and in political circles. Critics didn't just call it tone deaf. They called it racist.
This is racism. This is raw, rank racism when the President of the United States of America.
Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle demanded it be taken down. Even Republicans who usually defend Trump publicly said it crossed a line. The White House's first reaction, denial and defense. We've seen this drama before. Controversy hits, and the first response is damage control. At first, the White House press secretary dismissed the outrage as fake outrage. They claimed the video was just a harmless internet meme, portraying Trump as the king of the jungle and Democrats as characters from The Lion King. But the backlash didn't stop. It escalated.
Are you black? I'm being facetious, obviously. Who are you to say it's fake? Who are you to say the outrage is fake? Who are you to say something like that?
Within half a day, the post was deleted and the White House pivoted, saying a staffer erroneously made the post. Whether that explanation satisfied anyone is a whole other story. But the optics were already toxic. Trump refuses to apologize. Instead of calming crowds, Trump doubled down. Kinda, when reporters asked if he'd apologize, he flat out said no. Trump claimed he only saw the beginning of the video, the part about election fraud, and didn't realize the offensive ending was in there.
A number of Republicans are calling on you to apologize for that post. Is that something you're going to do?
No, I didn't make a mistake.
He repeated that he didn't make a mistake. That line alone lit up political social media. People questioned whether he was actually unaware or whether this was another case of Trump throwing aides under the bus. Either way, the refusal to apologize added fuel to the fire. Why this struck such a nerve? Trump's defenders argued he was just circulating political content. But critics pointed to the very real history of racist imagery in American culture, especially depictions of black figures as animals. Bringing that into a modern political context, especially tied to the Obamas, hit a historical nerve. And that's where the controversy shifts from a dumb post to a moment with real meaning. Because the Obamas are more than political figures. Barack Obama was the first black U.S. president, and Michelle Obama was the first black first lady. So using that imagery evokes racial stereotypes with a long, ugly history that's all right here. Before we dive into the long-standing Trump-Obama clash that makes this more than just a viral moment, you've got the incident itself, the roots of the rivalry. Before the ape imagery dropped and the political world exploded, there was a decade-long feud simmering between Donald Trump and Barack Obama, and it wasn't pretty. This rivalry wasn't born overnight. It was forged through conspiracy theories, media battles, and relentless public antagonism that shaped both men's political identities, and ultimately fueled moments like the racist video controversy back in 2011, long before Trump was seriously running for president. He started pushing a theory that would follow him for years, that Barack Obama wasn't actually born in the United States.
I thought he was probably born in this country, and now I really have a much bigger doubt than I did before.
But based on what?
And you know what? His grandmother in Kenya said he was born in Kenya.
This wasn't just political criticism. It was a full-blown conspiracy theory. Trump questioned Obama's birth certificate and suggested he was born in Kenya, playing into racist narratives about Obama's legitimacy as president. Obama, who had been fighting against fringe conspiracy theories since entering office, finally released his long-form birth certificate in 2011 to shut down the birther claims. But Trump kept going. In fact, even after tons of evidence showed Obama was born in Hawaii, Trump still repeatedly amplified those claims for years, turning it into one of his signature talking points.
I'm asking you now, do you accept that President Obama was born in the United States, is not Muslim?
I really don't know.
That moment, when Trump questioned the legitimacy of a black president's very existence, laid the foundation for everything that came next. Distrust, resentment, and political chaos, wires, spies, and Obamagate. Fast forward to the mid-2010s. Obama's presidency ends, but the feud doesn't. When Trump came into office in 2017, he accused Obama of wiretapping Trump Tower during the 2016 election, another baseless claim that threw political norms out the window and intensified their conflict. Then came Obamagate, Trump's label for an imagined scandal in which he claimed Obama conspired against him using the government itself. Trump insisted this was the greatest political scandal in American history.
This was all Obama. This was all Biden. These people were corrupt.
It's one of the worst things ever to befall this country in terms of political scandal.
Even though no credible evidence backed it, what these attacks did wasn't just political. They personalized a rivalry. Trump wasn't just disagreeing with Obama's policies. He was attacking Obama's character and integrity in every public arena possible, the treason accusations. The feud didn't cool off when Trump left office. Actually, it escalated during his second term. In 2025, Trump publicly accused Obama of treason, saying the former president had conspired to undermine Trump's 2016 campaign, again without evidence. Obama's team pushed back, calling the claims a weak attempt at distraction. Trump's rhetoric shifted from conspiratorial to directly accusatory, aiming to paint Obama not just as a political rival, but as a criminal in the court of public opinion. This dramatic escalation reflected Trump's broader strategy: keep the base fired up and redirect attention away from problems that could hurt him politically, like the Epstein files controversy. Why this all matters. This feud set the stage for moments like the racist video incident. When Donald Trump posted that controversial Truth Social clip, critics didn't just see it as a dumb meme. They saw a pattern, a history of pushing conspiracy theories about Obama, years of personal attacks, and escalating rhetoric. A tendency to weaponize media in ways that blur the line between satire and offensive political messaging. All of these threads connect back to decades of rhetorical battles, not just policy disagreements. And that's why the racist imagery hits so hard. It's tied to a larger narrative of dehumanizing opponents and stirring up outrage for political advantage. The political landscape shift. By 2026, this long history of attacks meant that Trump's critics weren't just calling him out for one stupid post. They were pointing to a pattern of targeting Barack Obama personally, whether through birtherism, unfounded treason claims, or now offensive imagery. And that context fuels the bipartisan backlash you saw when the video went viral. The backlash to the video wasn't just loud, it was different. Political scandals usually split clean down party lines. This one didn't. What erupted after that post showed how racial imagery still hits a nerve that goes deeper than red versus blue. Within hours, civil rights advocates, historians, and media analysts were all saying the same thing. This wasn't edgy humor. This tapped into one of the oldest racist propaganda tools in Western history. For centuries, racist caricatures portrayed black people as monkeys or apes to argue they were less human. That imagery wasn't accidental or harmless. It was used to justify slavery, segregation, and violence. So when people saw Barack and Michelle Obama, the first black president and first lady, placed into that visual tradition, it didn't land as satire. It landed as dehumanization. And here's where things got serious. Commentators began pointing out that Trump's political brand has long thrived on pushing boundaries, saying anything others won't say, reposting the meme others won't touch, blurring the line between plausible deniability and deliberate provocation. Critics argued this wasn't a mistake in isolation. It fit a communication style Trump has used for years. Share something outrageous, let it explode, deny intent, keep supporters energized while opponents are furious. That cycle keeps him at the center of attention, and in modern politics, attention is power. The media firestorm. Cable news panels lit up. Analysts debated whether the post crossed from political insult into racial territory. Some conservatives said the outrage was exaggerated, arguing Trump reposts content constantly and may not screen every second of every clip. Others, including figures inside the Republican Party, admitted this one was a problem. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Race controversies are one of the few things that can fracture political loyalty. Economic debates, party lines hold. Immigration, party lines hold. But racial imagery tied to historical oppression, that shakes the table. That's why even some Trump allies didn't rush to defend the content itself. Instead, they defended intent. Another argument exploded at the same time. Where does political free speech end and harmful rhetoric begin? Supporters said political speech, even ugly political speech, is protected, and public figures get mocked all the time. They framed it as another example of media outrage cycles. Critics pushed back hard. They said this wasn't ordinary mockery. It was racial symbolism with a documented history of abuse. And when that comes from a former president, someone with global influence, the impact multiplies. This is where the conversation left meme culture and entered something bigger. What kind of political culture is being normalized? Why the timing made it worse? The timing amplified everything. The post surfaced during a period when racial tensions, online extremism, and political distrust were already high. That made people more sensitive and more reactive. Add to that the Trump-Obama history, and suddenly this didn't look random. To critics, it looked like the latest escalation of rivalry where rhetoric had already gone from conspiracy theories to treason accusations and now to imagery many saw as racially charged. That perception, fair or not, shaped the national response. The bigger shift happening. Something else was happening beneath the headlines. Political communication itself has changed. Leaders don't just give speeches anymore. They post, repost, meme, and react in real time. That means the guardrails that once filtered presidential messaging are thinner. Moments like this show how a single post can ignite global controversy in minutes. And once it's out there, deleting it doesn't erase the impact. Screenshots live forever. Oh, now the controversy isn't just about Trump and Obama. It's about historical racial imagery colliding with modern meme culture, free speech versus social responsibility, political strategy versus cultural consequences, and a country arguing over what is just politics and what crosses a line, the political fallout. Once the cultural shockwave settled, the political consequences started taking shape. Because in modern American politics, controversy doesn't just trend. It reshapes strategy, messaging, and alliances behind closed doors. Inside Democratic circles, the reaction was immediate and unified. Party leaders framed the video as part of a broader pattern of racial insensitivity and inflammatory rhetoric that they argue has defined Trump's political style for years. They tied the moment to earlier episodes, from birtherism to very fine people debates, presenting it as evidence that racial division remains a political tool rather than an accident. Strategists quickly folded the incident into campaign messaging about leadership, national unity, and the moral tone of public office. But what made the situation more complicated was a Republican response. Publicly, many GOP figures avoided defending the imagery itself. Instead, they shifted toward process arguments, saying the post was likely shared without full review, or that outrage cycles are weaponized in election years. That subtle distancing mattered. It showed awareness that the optics could alienate moderate voters and suburban constituencies that often decide national elections. Historically, Trump's base has remained loyal through controversies that might have ended other political careers. But campaign analysts noted a key difference here. Racial controversies don't only energize opposition. They can also exhaust persuadable voters who are already fatigued by constant political conflict. That creates a strategic dilemma. Doubling down excites core supporters. Stepping back risks looking weak. Behind the scenes, political consultants on both sides reportedly treated the moment less as a one-day scandal and more as a narrative pivot. For Democrats, it reinforced an argument about character and stability. For Trump allies, it became another example of what they described as media amplification of every misstep. Two completely different interpretations of the same event, feeding the same polarization cycle. There's also the digital strategy layer. Trump's political rise has been closely tied to dominating online attention. Outrage in this ecosystem functions like oxygen. Even negative coverage keeps a figure at the center of national conversation. Some analysts argue this is intentional, that controversy is not a byproduct, but feature of the communication model. Others believe the speed of social media simply makes filtering impossible at scale. Either way, the deletion of the post didn't slow the story. In fact, removals often intensify interest. Screenshots circulate, commentary multiplies, and the debate shifts from the content itself to questions of intent, responsibility, and damage control. Another factor shaping the fallout was generational perception. Younger voters tend to interpret racial symbolism through historical context taught in modern education, while older political audiences may view the same content through a lens of partisan loyalty or media skepticism. That generational split influences how deeply incidents like this cut into political coalitions. International reaction also played a role. U.S. political imagery travels globally within minutes, and America's racial history is closely watched abroad. Foreign media coverage framed the episode as part of a broader discussion about democratic norms, online extremism, and leadership conduct in the digital age. That external spotlight adds pressure, especially for a country that often positions itself as a model of democratic values. All of this created a moment where a single post became more than a controversy. It became a political symbol, used by opponents to question character, used by supporters to criticize media culture, and used by analysts to examine how modern leadership communication works. By now, the story has moved far beyond a deleted clip. It's about strategy, voter psychology, media ecosystems, and the evolving rules of political engagement. Looking at what this says about the future of political discourse, how rivalries escalate in the digital era, and why moments like this may become more common, not less. The future of political conflict. By the time this controversy reached its peak, one thing was clear. This wasn't just about one post, one rivalry, or even one election cycle. It was a snapshot of where political culture is heading, faster, harsher, and more visual than ever before. The Trump-Obama feud shows how modern political battles don't really end. They evolve. What once played out through speeches and press conferences now unfolds through clips, memes, and viral moments that circle the globe in minutes. The tools have changed, but the core strategy remains old-school politics. Define your opponent, energize your base, and control the narrative before someone else does. The difference now is speed. There's no cooling off period. No editor slowing things down. A single upload can trigger international headlines before a team even realizes what happened. And once something enters a digital bloodstream, deleting it is like trying to pull smoke back into a fire. This is where rivalries become ecosystems. Trump and Obama represent more than two individuals. They symbolize two political eras, two coalitions, and two different visions of American leadership. Supporters on each side don't just defend policies. They defend identity, history, and worldview. That's why every clash feels existential rather than routine. Moments like the controversial video land so hard because they operate on multiple levels at once. There's a political layer, an attack between rivals. There's a cultural layer, imagery tied to history and race. And there's a media layer, an online system designed to reward outrage with reach. All three collided at the same time. Looking forward, analysts warn that this model isn't going away. In fact, it's likely to intensify. Artificial intelligence tools can generate realistic images and videos in seconds. Memes travel faster than official statements. Political communication is becoming more visual, more emotional, and less filtered. That raises serious questions about truth, intent, and responsibility. At the same time, audiences are changing. Voters are more skeptical, more polarized, and more likely to live inside media bubbles that reinforce what they already believe. That means controversies don't always change minds. They often harden them. Supporters see attacks. Critics see confirmation. Dialogue gets replaced with parallel realities. The Trump-Obama dynamic also highlights something older than social media. Political grudges last. History shows that rivalries between major figures can shape public life for decades. What's new is how those rivalries now unfold publicly, in real time, with millions of people participating through shares, comments, and reactions. So what does this moment ultimately represent? It shows how political communication has moved from policy debates toward symbolic battles. A single image can carry more emotional force than a 100-page policy plan. That's powerful and dangerous, because when symbolism outweighs substance, politics becomes spectacle, and spectacle rewards the loudest voice, not always the most thoughtful one. The controversial post may fade from headlines, but the forces behind it won't. Rivalries will continue. Media cycles will spin faster. Boundaries will keep getting tested. The real question isn't whether moments like this will happen again. It's whether the political system, the media, and the public can adapt to a world where every post can become history in seconds. That's the landscape now, and it's only getting more intense.